go. Recording in progress. My name is Karen Rademacher. I'm about a 3-year veteran here at SCTC. I'm a retired civil engineer specializing in water resources. So I'm a computer enthusiast, but not a computer professional. So I hope that puts me in line with a lot of you. We're going to be talking about password management today. Let me share my screen. Okay, here's our plan for today. Um, we're going to talk first about and just kind of review best practices for creating and using passwords. I want to talk a little bit about your most important passwords. There are a couple of them that are more important than all the rest. I'll look in detail at a typical password data entry form. We see those so often, we kind of take for granted or skip over some of the elements of it. And there might be aspects of it that you'll find useful that you haven't used in the past. Um, then we're going to talk about different ways of managing your passwords, and they're in 3 categories. We have manual password management, which by that I mean pen and paper. Then we're going to talk about built-in password managers, and these are password management tools that you probably already have and that are free and built into your software you're already using. Then we'll talk briefly about third-party password managers, and by that I mean these are software products that you can buy. We're going to talk a little bit about passkeys, and if you were on the call here before we hit record, you heard us chatting about that a little bit. This is an emerging technology that I think is a very good alternative to passwords. And then finally, at the end, we're going to talk about choosing how you can choose a password management method that works best for you. And I'll have a handout at that point that I'll put into the chat box. So here's the plan for today. We're going to talk about the world of password management tools out there, and I hope by the end of this session, you're able to pick one that works best for you. We might not, if you pick one of the more advanced ones, there might not be enough information in this presentation for you to fully implement it, but you'll know what you're getting into, you'll know where to start, and if you get stuck in the future, you can always come to us at one of our online or in-person labs or drop-in session. But know that no matter which system you might choose to go forward with, you're embarking on a project that's going to take a period of weeks maybe for you to implement and fully adopt into your daily life. So this isn't a quick fix. This isn't an overnight cure for your password management frustrations. So best practices. The golden rule here is never reuse your passwords. The bad actors out there have access to databases of hacked and leaked passwords, and they have tools that they can use to identify a person, probably by their email address, who uses the same password over and over again. And what they will do is they will use your email address and your favorite password, and they will try it on other websites. Um, and they might be able to get in because you have a habit of using the same password over and over again. So the solution to that is that every website or online account that you have needs to have its own unique password. Well, that sounds fun, except how can you remember them all? And that's why you need a system. So how do we create unique passwords? Now, if you go for some of the password manager tools we'll be talking about later, they have built-in password generators, and it will create a really strong password for you. But if you're not using a password tool, you're going to need to make up a password. And it's hard to do. And we're so used to our favorite password, um, Badger Dog 2024, the name of your pet in a year. That's kind of a typical practice. You need to be a little bit more creative than that, a little bit more complicated. So, one way to do that is to think in your head some random phrase. And so I have here on the screen, I just thought this up. We used 8 ounces of cheese when we made pizza Thursday night. And if I take the first letter of that phrase, of each word in that phrase, it turns into this WU8OOCWWMP capital T N exclamation point. And that's a pretty robust password and would be hard for anyone to guess. Now, you don't have to remember that phrase. What you're going to do, this is just a method for generating a random password. You're going to write down the password, not the phrase. You never have to remember that phrase again. So that's one approach. Another one is to just think up two unrelated words and then a symbol and a number. So Grandma Forest, question mark 1295. That's pretty hard for people to crack. So that might be easier. Just look around the room and, identify two unrelated objects and hack together a password. I will say, and especially if you're using a pen and paper method, that you need to avoid using ones and capital I's and L's because look how similar they are. So you have to have good handwriting or a method for distinguishing those. And same for O's and zeros. So that's just a word of caution. Many websites that we go to will ask you, do you want to use multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication? And what that means is that's the system where you log into a website and they're going to send you a code in a text message, and you have to type the code into the box in order to get into the website. And I know those are a hassle and they slow you down. And in my case, I have vision issues. It's hard for me to read that code on my little phone. But this is a good thing. And even though it's a hassle and maybe inconvenient, I strongly encourage you to embrace that when it is offered to you. Now, some products or websites, they don't send you a text. They're going to ask you to install and use an authenticator app on your phone, and Microsoft does that. So it's an extra step. You have to install that app on your phone, but it's the same principle. When you try to log in, it's going to ping that app. You have to pick up your phone, tap on it, follow the instructions, and then they'll let you into the website.
Yep.
Now, going hand in hand with your password is a username, and almost always that username is your email address. And it might be worth it to think a minute about what your email address is. This is kind of a rare problem, but if it is your problem, it can be very difficult. And that is if you are still using an email service associated with your former place of employment, or if it's associated with an organization that you volunteer with, and that's your only email address, and you leave that job, you leave that organization, or they cut you off, now your email address is gone. So just think a minute. If you're using Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo or Comcast, those are all fine. But if you're using, colostate.edu, that email address might not be permanently available to you. A second thing I would suggest is that you have a secondary email address in case your primary email address goes down or is unavailable to you for some reason. So in my case, my main email is Gmail, but I also have a Yahoo email address, And there are some websites that say that ask you when you sign up for their service. And this is particularly true of banks and other important services like that. They'll ask you, do you have a secondary email address? And that's a good idea to have one. Um, We have great classes here at SCTC about cybersecurity, and I'm not going to go into all the details here, but the main way that people get into trouble is they give away their passwords. No one has hacked into their computer. They have unknowingly given away their password. And usually it's something like this image on the right. You get this scary email or a scary text message, your account is locked, and it's fake. And when you click on that online verification button, you're not going to your bank. You're going to the bad guy's website and handing him your username and password. So this is phishing, and it's the most dangerous and common type of scam that compromises your passwords. So before you type in your password on any website, in the back of your mind, think, did I go here? Did I type www.usbank.com? Or did I click on a link in an email or text message? Um, if you're in doubt, just stop. There's no emergency that's so urgent that you have to type your password right now. Take a few minutes and think about it. These types of scams and emails are meant to scare you, get you upset, and meant to make you react impulsively. Don't take the bait. Again, always go to the website through the front door. And by that, I mean in your browser, type usbank.com and go in the legitimate front door method. Don't click on sketchy links in emails and text messages. And at the end of the day, if you're worried about maybe your account really has been locked or compromised, um, look at the phone number for your financial statement on your checkbook or on a bank statement and call them and ask, or go in person. Find out from a real person whether there's a problem and don't just run with this scary text message that you've gotten. So just a reminder that the scammers are out there making you impulsive and upset and make the wrong decision. So calm down, stop, think through what you're doing, and if you have any doubt, call the legitimate phone number for the financial institution that you're concerned about. So, with that, let's talk about your most important passwords. And your most important password is your email. Think about if you lose access to your email account, you are in a world of hurt. That's how your important vendors and financial institutions communicate with you. If you need to reset a password, it comes to you as an email. So that's the one password you don't want to lose. So make sure that your email password isn't used for anything else. It's only used for that email account. And try to pick a password that you can memorize and remember. So I'm sure there's more than one of you out there thinking, I don't even know how to change my email password. So let's look at that real quick. For example, if you use Gmail and you're accessing it through your browser, you have a screen like this with your different mailboxes and folders on the left, and then individual emails here in the middle. In the upper right corner is a symbol. It might be your picture, it might be your initial. If you click on that, you'll get a box that says manage your Google account, or a link inside that box. And you'll want to click on that. And then that takes you to a screen to manage your Google account. On the left side menu is a link that says security. And if you scroll down, here's the link for changing your password. Now, at the end of the presentation here, I'm going to put this slide deck into the chat box so you can download it and go back and review how to do this. But it is pretty straightforward. And similar Outlook is almost identical if you use Microsoft products. In the upper right corner, you're going to click on that little icon that's probably your initials, and you just click on My Microsoft Account, and right at the top is a place to change your password. If you are a Mac user or an Apple device user, your Apple ID password is just about as important as your email password. In fact, if you're an iPhone user and you want to trade in your iPhone and you want to sign out of your old iPhone and erase it, you have to know your Apple ID password. Um, so again, memorize it, reset it if you need to, and I have a screen about that in a minute. And the same is true for Microsoft. If you're a 365 user, um, you'll want to have that password memorized. So for Apple users out there, if you're on a Mac, um, you open up the settings app and click on your account at the top of the screen and go to password and security. And right near the top is the option to change your password. It looks very similar on an iPhone as well. Okay, so now that we've got our username and password, let's talk about actually entering a password on a typical website. So I've just got displayed here, I randomly picked Best Buy as a website that I'm signing into, and maybe I already have an account with them. Let's look at the elements of this form. First of all, when you type in your password, it's usually going to show up as a bunch of like dots or stars or something or asterisks. And you can't really be sure what it is you're typing or if you even typed it correctly. There's usually a toggle here that you can show your password, or it might be an eyeball with a slash through it. And if you click on that, it will toggle between the asterisks and the actual password that you typed. So especially when you're on a phone and those keys are kind of hard to hit accurately, you can toggle this to show the password and then make sure that you've typed in the password correctly. Um, there's almost always a link. If you've forgotten your password, you click on that, you'll enter your email address, and you get sent an email to reset your password. That's me. You can also pretend like you forgot your password and use that as the method for resetting your password. So at the end of this process, when you've selected a password management method and it's time to clean up all your passwords and you've got 20 websites that are using the same password, you'll want to go into each one of those websites, pretend like you forgot your password, click on that link, and then create a new unique password for each one of those websites. There's sometimes an option that you can click this box to keep me signed in. And what that means is when I'm done with this visit to Best Buy online and next week I go back to Best Buy website again, I don't have to log in again because my browser has remembered who I am because I clicked this box the last time I was there. Um, the mechanics of what's happening behind the scenes when you click that box is the website is storing what's called a cookie on your browser. And we've probably heard about cookies and are a little bit scared of them. In this instance, a cookie is okay. It makes life more convenient for you. But if you're ultra concerned about security, you don't have to check that box. Also, if you're logging into a website on someone else's computer or on a computer at the library, you'll never want to click that box and save a cookie. You only save it on your own device. And then we have these other options down below. In this case, I have other ways to sign in. I can sign in with a passkey. I can sign in with Apple. I can sign in with Google. Um, so what that means is I don't have to store a separate username and password for this website. I can piggyback onto my Apple or Google account. Um, I don't recommend that because, um, Best Buy won't see my Apple password, but I just like to keep, and I'm speaking here just my own opinion. I like to keep things straight and in their own boxes. And I want a Best Buy username and password, and I want an Apple username and password, and I don't want to confuse the two. Now, we are going to talk at the end about pass keys. And for now, I'll just say if you see the option to sign in with a pass key, my recommendation is to take that option. That's a good, secure way to get into a website. And someday, passkeys might make everything else I'm telling you today obsolete. It is sort of the wave of the future, but we'll talk about that at the end. So, a quick review, never reuse passwords. Each website, each online service has its own password. Make sure that your email address is one, your email service is one that you can use forever and won't go away if you leave your volunteer position or your job. Always think twice before offering up your password, especially if you've been alarmed by something. That's the way scammers get your passwords. Make sure your email password is unique and memorize it. Make sure your Apple ID password is unique and memorize it. So, with that as background, let's talk about different password management strategies. And I've got three of them for you. And the first is old school pen and paper. And um, one way to do that, and if you can see my camera here, is to get a little book. And you can get these on Amazon or at an office supply store or even, places like Target or Walmart. It's specially designed for writing down your passwords. And I have so many people that come into drop-in sessions and they apologize for their password book. And I'm here to tell you today, if that's your comfort level, there's nothing wrong with that. And using a password book and writing them down is better than no system at all. And in fact, it's a pretty good system. I've also seen people that have index cards. They've either got them like in a recipe card box. I've seen other people that have holes punched in them and they're bound together with like a ring. So there's a couple different approaches here to your choice of media. Um, do not use loose paper or sticky notes. And I would also say don't use spiral notebooks because the pages come out and there's no alphabetical system built into a spiral notebook. You can store this book safely at home. Um, the people that break into your house are not looking for your password book. They're looking for expensive items to steal. So I don't think the people that are stealing TVs aren't smart enough to hack into your accounts. So I don't think that's a concern. The greater concern would be prying eyes. If you have other people in your house, grandchildren, maybe you want to keep that book away from them. But that's a pretty safe way to go. Be careful if you're carrying it with you out of the house, um, but it's a pretty safe way to go. In each page of this book, you're going to write down for every website um, the name of the website, Amazon.com, and then the username, which is usually your email address, the password, and if there were security questions that you answered while you set up the account, write down the answers to those security questions right there in the book. And if you change your password, it's a good practice. Don't use erasers and pencils because it gets smudgy and hard to read. Just line out the old password, write down the new one, and the date that you changed it. So here's an example that I created in this little book here. Um, this is a website for knitting enthusiasts. So, and I made up these password credentials so they won't work if you try them. But here I've got the name of the website, Ravelry.com, the username, and notice that some letters are capitalized, some are not. So be mindful of capitalization. Here's an old password that I crossed out. Here's the new one that I created. And then here's some answers to security questions. I would not try to put too many websites on a page. Oops. Because you might change the password more often than you expect, or there's other notes you need to write down. So be generous with yourself and leave room on the paper. Um, a second level up, if you will, for password management is instead of pen and paper, you're going to use a digital document of some kind. In other words, a word processing type document. So your choice of tool depends on the operating system or the device you're using. If you're on a Windows PC, you can use Word or Notepad. If you're on an Apple device, you can use Pages, which is the word processor on Macs, or you could use Notes, which goes across all your Apple's devices. Do not store this document in Dropbox or Evernote or some other um, service where you have to pay to access it, because if your account expires, you no longer have access to that document. So if you're going to use a single document on your Windows PC, name it something that you can remember and store it somewhere where you can find it again. And maybe you just want to keep it on the desktop so it's always handy for you. Um, I've seen many people that keep this document handy, but they on their desktop, but they actually print out a hard copy that they can refer to when they need to, and that's fine. Or you can just keep it in digital form and then you can use copy and paste shortcuts to copy the password from your document and paste it right into the form on the website you're using. And of course, for Windows users, copy is Control C, paste is Control V. For Mac users, it's Command C and Command V. And if what I'm saying right now doesn't make any sense to you, then this might not be the method for you. You might just want to print that document and have it by your side or stick with the pen and paper method. Here's an example for that same website, the same login information, what it might look like in Apple Notes, for example. And it would look the same in a Word document. I've got the name of the website, my username, my password, the security questions. So if we level up to the next option for password management, that would be using tools that are built into software that you already have. So you might not know you already have password managers available to you at no cost, and they all work pretty well. Most web browsers have built-in password managers, and lots of people use Google Chrome, and that built right into that is a system for saving your passwords as you create them and for automatically filling it in when you go to a website to log in. Edge and Firefox also have built-in password managers, and I'm sure the list is even longer. Apple also has password manager that's built into its operating system and accessible in the Safari browser. And these password managers work across devices. As long as you can log into Chrome, you can have access to your Chrome passwords. A couple nice things about using password managers. If your user name and password has been leaked in some sort of a hack, the password manager will notify you that this account was leaked on this date, and it will remind you to change your password. So that's a good feature. The other nice thing is that password managers aren't fooled by phishing scams. So if you do click on the link in the email and it's taking you to the bad guy's website, your password manager won't fill in the password because it's not the right website, even though it might look like it, even though it's designed to fake you out. It doesn't fake out the password manager. So those are two kind of good reasons to consider going this route if you think you're up to it. Um, I'm going to walk through a couple examples here. This isn't intended to be a how-to or step-by-step. I just want to give you a feel for what you're getting into if you elect to use some of these built-in managers. So first, I'm going to talk about just using Google Chrome as your password manager. And this is on your PC, and I'm not talking about your iPhone here. I'm just using the Chrome browser built-in password manager. So the first thing you need to do is again get into your Chrome account. So you log into Gmail and click on this icon in the upper right corner again. It might be your photo, it might be your initial. Again, manage your Google account. Go over here to security, and you have to scroll down a long ways, and you'll get down finally to password manager. And you'll click on that and you'll get this welcome screen and you'll want to click on the gear here to get started. And you'll just toggle on all of these options. One is to offer to save passwords. So that what that means is after I turn this on, and next time I go to Amazon, I'm going to type in Amazon.com and I'm going to click on the login button and I'm going to type in my username. I'm going to type in my password. And now I'm going to get a pop-up from Chrome and it's going to say, do you want me to save this for you? And you have the option of saying yes or no, but you'll want to say yes. And now it's saved in your browser. Next time you go to Amazon and you go to log in, before you even start typing, you're going to get a pop-up that's going to ask, do you want me to fill this in for you? And you say yes. So it's hugely convenient, big time saver, and saves you a lot of headache of mistyping passwords, which we all do. Um, so again, auto sign in, this is what I was describing. When I go back to Amazon the second time, it will sign me in automatically. And then I can also toggle on the option to get alerts if my saved passwords have been compromised online. So three great features, and you'll want to toggle them all on. Um, Here's how it works in Apple. If you have an iPhone or a Mac, here's what it looks like on your Mac, you'll want to open your Settings app, go to iCloud, click on your account, go to iCloud, and then you'll see here one of the options is whether you want to save your passwords to iCloud. So if you click on that See All button, here's all the things that may or may not be saved to iCloud, depending on how you've got your system configured. So if you click on this passwords and keychain item, it'll pull up a box that asks you whether you want to sync your passwords to this Mac. Turn it on, and that's about all there is to it. Um, on your phone, your Apple phone, and this is true if you're using Chrome as well, and we'll talk more about this hybrid method in a minute. But on your phone, open the Settings app, scroll all the way down to Apps, navigate to the Passwords app, and here's three settings very similar to what we saw on Chrome. Do you want us to detect passwords that have been compromised? Here it will suggest, if you want, the password manager can create strong passwords for you. And here's a new thing, allow automatic passkey upgrades. We'll talk about passkeys at the end, but I recommend turning that on. Then you'll go to your autofill settings, and this is important. Um, you can see on my phone, I have four different password managers that my phone has detected. You want to pick one and only one to use on your phone. If you turn on more than one, your password managers are going to fight each other and you're going to be confused. I think it'll still work, but you'll be confused. So pick just one. And in my case, I'm using the Apple's built-in password manager. But if you're a Chrome user on your PC, you can just as easily pick Chrome and have the passwords sync between devices. So here's what it looks like, and I'm using the Apple system as an example, but I'm on a website that I've never been to before. I'm going to create this account so I can save more and earn rewards. So I fill out my name, my phone number, email, and then when I get down to password, I've got an option here, use strong password. And if I click on that, it made up this password for me and it has saved it. So um, I use that all the time and I have very complicated, unmemorizable, unguessable passwords associated with almost all my accounts. Here's what it looks like on your phone. So here, for example, I'm logging into Ancestry and I get to the login form and this gray part down here pops up and asks me, do you want me to sign into Ancestry with your password? And if I click on that blue box, it fills it in and it advances to the next screen. I'm all signed in without having to type or think about anything. Here's what it looks like on a Mac. Um, when I get to the email box to type my email, before I even start typing, this little gray box pops up and it offers to fill in the boxes for me. So that's what getting a password manager means is you don't have to type. It's going to fill in the boxes for you. If you want to see what your passwords look like, and again, I'm using the Apple iPhone as an example, you're going to open the Passwords app on your iPhone. Let me just advance to the next screen so we can see it. You'll open the Passwords app, click on All, and here's an alphabetical list of all of the websites that you have saved passwords for. And if you tap on an individual entry here, It will pull up a screen. It will show you your username and the password. It's showing as dots, but if you tap on it, it will reveal the password for you so you can see it. And if there's any security alerts for that website, it will highlight them here for you. If you click on the Edit button at the top of the screen, now I can go in and um, change things. If this password is saved, you don't want to edit it, but they do provide a link here. If you click on Change Password, that will take you to the website and you can walk through the process of changing your password. There's also a spot down here where you can make notes. Maybe you can put the answers to your security questions there, or, it's free form. You can type whatever you want. You can also delete a password, and that will happen from time to time. You'll have, for some reason, two entries for Amazon.com, and one of them will work and one of them won't. So sometimes you need to delete passwords. None of these systems are perfect. You're going to get glitchy stuff like that from time to time.
Hey, Karen,
Yes,
Bobski. It's important to note that if you delete the password entry in the password app, you're not deleting the account on the whatever site you are at. So even if you delete your JCPenney password entry, you still have the account at JCPenney.
that's
So
correct.
yeah, so you have to be careful of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, this password app on the iPhone is only available on iOS 17 and greater, which came out in September of 2023. So if you try to get to the password app and you can't find it, it's probably because you have an earlier version.
Earlier versions of iOS did have a password manager, but it was buried in the settings
Yeah, exactly.
and not as a standalone app.
Right.
Um, so here, just uh, because so many people that I help have PCs with Chrome and they also have an iPhone, I thought it worthwhile to talk a little bit about a hybrid method you could use. Um, so, in order to implement this, you have four steps to go through on your computer. Um, and let me walk you through those. But first, why would you want to do this? Um, Again, it's a common combination. I have a Windows PC and I have an Apple iPhone. How can I come up with a system that works in both worlds? Um, my recommendation, and I tested this out, this is the category my husband falls into. We actually worked through this last week. Um, I found out that the process of creating and saving a password works best on your iPhone or iPad. Um, so that's where you create passwords and store them. But once they're stored in the system here and you're on your Windows PC inside Chrome, it beautifully fills in the boxes for you. So it's glitchy if we found that if you're on Chrome and I'm going to a website and I'm entering my username and password and Chrome may or may not ask me if I want to save it was the problem we came encountered. So it's more this hybrid approach I'm showing you is more robust when you save the passwords in the Apple environment. But once they're saved, Chrome can find them quite well. So here's what you need to do on your Windows PC if you want to go this route. You need to download and install the iCloud app from the Microsoft Store, and that's what the icon looks like. Um, Once it's installed, you'll log in with your Apple ID and password, and then you get a whole list of things that you can sync between your Windows PC and your Apple iPhone. And I would start out with just the passwords. If you start mixing and matching your Windows photos, your Google photos with your Apple photos, it can be done, but unless you know what you're doing, I'd stay away from that. Just do the passwords for now. Then the final step is inside your Chrome browser, and you'll be prompted to do this. It will ask you to install the iCloud Chrome extension, and you just click on that blue button, Add to Chrome. So now, once I've completed those steps, now I'm logging into this Ravelry website. I'm on a Windows PC using the Chrome browser, but I'm going to get this Apple pop-up that's going to ask me if I want to fill in the password. So that's what that hybrid approach might look like. And we found it to be a good solution for my husband. So finally, you can also get what I call third-party password solutions, and these are not built in to your software. You have to go out and download or possibly purchase these password managers. Um, there are some advantages to these. They work pretty seamlessly across all devices and all operating systems. This what I just walked you through with this Chrome iPhone approach, that took some setting up. That wasn't easy. These third-party ones, I think, are a little bit more seamless in terms of working across all your devices. You can also share your passwords with your spouse or a child, and that might be something to consider as we age. It will also perhaps be more robust in terms of keeping track of answers to your security questions. Um, and they have built-in password generators. They can track other types of information. You can securely save bank account and credit card numbers. Some of them cost money. They're not expensive. The typical cost for these is, 35 bucks a year. But it's typically an annual subscription that you're paying for. So the recommended products, Bitwarden is free. It's an open source software and one that we recommend. 1Password is also good. I think it's 35 bucks a year. NordPass is also a good one, similarly priced. I used to use and I used to recommend LastPass, but they were hacked, and a password security company that can't manage its own security is a bit of a red flag for me. So I'm not able to recommend that product. Uh,
Unnecessary.
okay, just some words of advice about password managers, and I think I mentioned this previously. You don't want to mix and match password managers. You don't want to have Bitwarden here and Apple there and Chrome there. Pick one and use it across all your devices because they'll fight each other if you have more than one. Um, I don't think we have a password manager class offered right now. We've had one in the past. Maybe we'll have one in the fall. But if you want to go for one of these higher level options, we do have classes from time to time on how to implement them. And that would be the way to get the step-by-step instructions on how to do this. So, what does Karen do? I'm an Apple enthusiast, so I use Apple's built-in system, and it has worked great for me. I'm very happy with it. As I mentioned, my husband used to do the Word document on his Windows PC, and the problem we were running into is he would update that document with a new password and save it. and then he couldn't remember where he saved the document. And now he's got another password that he wants to update, and he would find an older version of that Word document. And pretty soon, he had four different versions of that document. None of them were up to date. They were all different. And he was losing control. So we are transitioning him this week to the Apple Chrome combo, and it's working pretty well for him so far. He's not as interested in tech stuff as I am, so we walked him through it, and I think it's going to work. Um, my parents, both in their 80s, use password books, and it's working just fine for them. And I don't worry about them. And they're able to keep track of their passwords and update them as needed. Just in the past, before I was all in on Apple, I was using the Chrome password system, and this was years ago, and it worked well then. I'm sure it still works well now. And I was a LastPass user, so I do have experience with the third-party password managers. I don't recommend that particular product, as I mentioned, but when the whole idea of a third-party password manager, it is convenient and it will work for you. Um, so with all my passwords on my phone inside that passwords app, if I'm at the library, for example, and I'm doing genealogy stuff and I'm logging into a website where I have an account, I can open up the passwords app on my phone. I can look up my username and password for familysearch.org and I can log in. Um, you should also know that Siri can look up your passwords for you, and you can say, "Hey Siri," and she's answering me right now. You can say, "What is my password for ancestry.com?" And she won't say it out loud because you don't want people in the room to hear it, but it will pop up on your phone with the username and password. So that's another advantage to the Apple's built-in password manager. I do have accounts and services that I use that are too complicated for the passwords app. So in those cases, I have all the instructions and information saved in an Apple Notes, which is a secure place to store things like that. I have my Apple ID password memorized because it does me no good being locked inside Apple's password manager. So, another tip here is maybe inside your password book, if that's what you're using, inside the front cover, put your email password and your Apple ID password. So they're just right there, easy to find. Also, um, I have passwords for my email, my Apple ID, and the codes to unlock my phone. I have those written down and stored with my will and trust papers. And, once a year I look at that stuff, and if one of those passwords is changed, I'll edit it. But there are horror stories out there about people when they pass, no one knows how to unlock their phone. And think about your loved ones trying to get access to your important information in your bank account and they can't unlock your phone. So, something to think about. As promised, I want to talk about pass keys. And back to my Best Buy example. If I've saved a pass key with Best Buy, next time I go there, this thing is going to pop up. Sign into Best Buy with your pass key. And if I say use pass key, there's a process that happens, and the gist of it is Best Buy thinks if you can unlock your phone, you're good to go. Or if you're on a Mac, if you can verify that you're the valid user of that Mac, that's all you have to do, and they let you in. And you'll get it's like Face ID. If if you can unlock your phone, they'll let you into the website. I'm not going to talk too much more about what goes on behind the scenes because honestly, I don't understand it. But this is the wave of the future, and experts tell us this is a very secure method of getting into websites. You don't have to remember your password. You just have to be able to unlock your phone with your face or with a code. Um, and uh, if you're not using your phone and you're using your computer and um, the passkey thing isn't working, you still can fall back on a password. So it's sort of a redundancy built in. And if this sounds intriguing to you and you want to know more about it, sign up for this class again in the fall, and Bobski's going to be teaching it, and he's going to go into more detail about passkeys and how to use them. And it would sure be nice if 3 years from now we can sunset this whole password class because passkeys are working so well, but we're not quite there yet. Now, I am going to stop sharing my screen for a moment here, and I'm going to put a handout into the chat.
We'll, excuse me, we'll also have the handouts posted on our website under the Apple tab at some point, not too far away.
Okay, so if you open that handout, this is what it looks like. And this is a matrix for you to think about how you're going to decide how to manage your passwords going forward. And I've got 4 columns here. The first column is the manual pen and paper method. Moving up to the next level is storing your passwords in a Word document or something similar. Next is using a built-in password manager. And then at the far right is using third-party password management software. And in the top row here, the first row, I kind of give you some things to think about as to why this method might work for you. So let's just work our way across the grid here. A pen and paper method might be the answer for you if you just want to stay in your comfort zone and all this stuff I've showed you about apps and configuring and setting up. If that's not your cup of tea, stick with pen and paper. Hopefully you just have a few online accounts and you're not trying to manage hundreds. Um, and maybe you don't consider yourself tech savvy and you just want to stick with what you understand and with what you know will work. Um, a drawback to the pen and paper method is that it's going to be more time consuming for you to log into websites. You're going to have to type in a username, type in a password. You might make a mistake and you'll have to retype it. You know all about that, but that's the drawback. Um, if that's the way you want to go, I encourage you to get a password book or some other organized method of keeping your passwords straight. Don't use loose paper, don't use sticky notes, don't use a spiral notebook. Get something a little more task specific for keeping track of your passwords. Um, the digital document. Um, if you're comfortable using a word processor and you use Word or Pages a lot, this will work for you. Being able to copy and paste from your document onto the website is helpful, but not necessary. You can just print out your document and have it handy. Um, if that's the way you think you want to go, Just identify which um, word processing or note product you're going to use, and make sure that you give it a good identifiable file name and that it's saved somewhere where you can find it again. I do want to tell you, if you're tech savvy enough to do this, you're probably tech savvy enough to go with one of the built-in methods in the next column. So just think about that. If you're able to do the digital document, I'm sure you're able to level up to the built-in password manager. So the built-in password manager is good if you're willing to try something new and you're willing to do those initial setup. You have to configure your phone to sync to iCloud. You have to go into Chrome and, adjust those settings to autofill your passwords. So drawbacks, there's a little bit of a learning curve to go through here. You are going to have to do on each device, you're going to have to do something a little different to get it to all work. So that's the frustration, is getting it set up. Once it's set up, it's really slick. So if you think you want to go that direction, um, your next steps, if you're going with Chrome, you need to make sure that Chrome is on your phone, Chrome is on your computer, and you need to configure it on each device. For Apple, it's pretty simple. You just in the settings app on each device, just make sure that passwords and keychain are turned on. And then if you're using an iPhone, you need to go to autofill passwords. And I don't know if you remember that screen, there'll be a list of the password managers available on your phone, and pick one and only one, either Apple or Chrome. Don't mix and match. If you want to go all in, and I, a very robust and secure option is third party, and Bitwarden is free and highly recommended. Um, this might be the way to go. Some of these, like 1Password or NordPass, has a cost. You'll have to set this up on every device. You'll have to pay for it every year if you're going with one of the paid options. But I think the configuration and setup on these third-party ones are more streamlined and smoother than the built-in options. So no matter which option you've picked, you now have the same homework to do, which I've got at the bottom here, which is, first of all, take special note of your most important passwords, email and Apple ID, memorize them, make sure they're unique, write them down inside the front cover of your book, put them with your will and trust papers. And now you're going to go about your business online over the next few weeks. And every time you log into a website, you're going to either get out your book and write down the username and password. If it's a website with a recycled password, in other words, it's that password, the same password you use on 20 different websites, it's time to change it. So when you log in, click on the Forgot My Password link and create a new password, and either write it down or save it to the built-in password manager. But it's going to take you a while as you do your online tasks over the next few weeks to hit all your favorite websites and either change or document the passwords that you use. And this isn't going to happen overnight. I would allow yourself a month or two to get all your passwords in order and entered into your system. Um, but you'll sleep better at night once this is all done. After I retired from my job about 3 years ago, I went through this process, and I had the same password on probably 50 websites. And it took me a couple months. And every day I would log into like 10 different websites, change the password, make sure I had it entered in my password manager correctly. So it won't happen overnight, but you'll be glad once it's done. So with that, I am going to put my slide deck into the chat box here. If you want to refer back to that. And now I see a bunch of questions in the chat box here. Um, email address, not user ID. Okay, Daryl answered that. Password protect your digital document. That's a great idea. Um, I know Microsoft Word has the ability to password protect documents, and that's just one more layer of security for that document on your computer. How do I download this page to my computer? That's the handout. Um, when I click on it, it just opens, and then I can save it from there. So I'm not sure I can help with your specific.
Sharon, that was your question?
Yes, it was.
I can email it to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
And again, it'll be on our website either later today or tomorrow, depending on how motivated I am.
Great.
You can also take a print screen picture of it with your phone.
I can't. You can, but I can't. I don't know how to do that.
All right. Any questions from you all?
Excellent presentation.
Yeah,
Yes,
Bobsky
Karen.
Thank
had to
you.
leave early, and he mentioned to mention again to you, excellent presentation.
Yes, Karen. I truly appreciate your presentation because one of my problems is I have mixed system. How do I get rid of a mixed system? I have different things doing different things.
Yeah, I'm sure by mixed system you mean that sometimes they're saved in your browser and sometimes they're written down. And um, actually, a mixed system will work. It's just frustrating when you go to a website and you can't remember, is this one of the ones I wrote down or is this one of the ones I saved? So maybe it's time to commit to one or the other. And if you already have some password saved in your browser and that's working for you, that might be the indicator that that's the way you need to go. But another thing I should mention here is if perfection is your goal here, you're never going to be satisfied because none of these systems are perfect. Um, I end up with, for some reason, I have two Amazon passwords. How did that happen? I don't know. So now I've got a problem to solve. I have to figure out which password works. I've got to delete the other one. So if you think you're going to land in this somewhere over the rainbow fantasy where everything works perfectly, I'm sorry to tell you, it will never be perfect. Um, I can tell you that this passkey technology, as it gets more widely adopted, is getting us closer. But, even then, for some reason, it's probably not going to work. You're probably still going to have passwords as your backup technology, even with passkeys. So,
Thank you
Karen,
very much. I appreciate what you did.
yeah.
Karen, this is Babette. I have a question. So I went into autofill passwords and I show three things. I thought I had a bunch of stuff in Chrome, but I have LastPass, Edge, and iCloud passwords in Keychain. And that's the one that's checked. Does that mean Google passwords are included in that?
I'm sorry, which one was checked?
iCloud passwords in Keychain.
Yeah, that
So would,
means that
go ahead.
when you go to a website on your phone, it's going to look in your Apple Passwords Manager for a password. It's not going to look in Chrome. So if you have passwords saved in Chrome that aren't saved in Apple, there won't be the opportunity to autofill that. Now you can export passwords from one password manager to another. So if you want to make a switch, that's possible. That's sort of beyond the scope of what we're
Okay.
talking about today, but that is possible to migrate passwords from one manager to another.
So is there a way to just add Chrome onto my Apple phone?
I would well, again, don't pick two because then you're going to get confused.
Okay, maybe I need to come in.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, if there's no more questions, thanks everybody for attending, and we'll go ahead and end the recording and then the call.
Well, friends, that's a wrap. We hope you've enjoyed this video today. Hey, before you go, if you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to know when the latest SCTC video comes out, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And if you have any ideas or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.